pretty much gave. Junior year was kind of my last real year of playing basketball in high school, and I just finished up with football and track.
Okay, so other than going to Miami, were there other colleges that were coming at you to go to their schools other than Miami?
Yeah, man. You know, just being honest, being real as possible. My coaches were right. You know, they told me I had a choice to go to any school in the country I wanted to go to. So you name it, I had offers. Whatever school you want to bring up. Um, and I only took 3 visits because I really thought I was going to go to University of Texas. I thought I was going to stay home. Texas was on the up and up, my junior senior year and looking promising. And thought I'd just kind of stay home. So I only took a Miami visit because I wanted to see Miami because what you see in the movies and shows and stuff like that, and what I had grown up watching, who was from my high school, Jesse Armstead, who won a couple of national championships there and had a long career with the Giants, multiple Pro Bowls, and Kevin Williams also from Dallas. So watching Miami in the heydays of the late 80s, early 90s, I just wanted to see it. Had no intention of coming to Miami. And then took a visit to Michigan. Really, really, really liked Michigan. I almost became a Wolverine. And then I took my visit to Texas, man. And it was during that visit, man, my dad and I were just really praying about it. And there were some things that it just didn't settle with me well. And when I got home from the Texas visit, it was clear that Miami was the place, man. And Miami was the only one that was straight up honest with me. The receiver coach told me. He told me who he was recruiting, who he wanted. Everybody else was telling me, hey, you going to start, you going to come here, you going to do this and this. He looked at me in the eyes and said, if you're ready to play, I'm going to play you. If you're not ready to play, I'm a redshirt you and get you ready to play. And I said, I can respect that, man. He looked me right in the eyes and told me the truth. And so it was Miami all the way, man.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you chose Miami because Miami's going through tough times with NCAA sanctions, scholarships being stripped away. Butch Davis, became a coach in '95.
Yeah.
He was part of that regime. And that's the thing that was amazing that you chose that school because Miami was going through the struggles of being what they used to be. That's why that was interesting. Talk about that.
Oh, it was a big deal, man. That was actually so when I told people I wasn't committing anywhere until I took all my visits, and that commitment was final. I didn't want to be one of them wishy-washy people and committing and decommitting. That's not how I wanted my word to be yes or no. And so when I said yes to Miami, man, a lot of people were coming at me with that very thing because there was another year of sanctions as far as my class. And then even the class after us, there was scholarships cut. So we weren't getting the same amount of scholarships as the other teams in the NCAA. But one of the things that jumped out to me that I couldn't shake was the way when on my visit, the way the team, the guys, the way they did life together, man, they were close. There was a different aura with the players there than the other schools that I had gone to. And then other guys I talked to that went to other schools that I decided not to take visits on. And these guys had this closeness, and all they talked about was like winning and getting better and all these. And the conversation was like, I want to compete with guys like that. Like other places, they were living the D1 life. They was enjoying it. You get treated well, when you play at top colleges. That's the realization of things. But that talk in Miami wasn't that. It was a different kind of talk about greatness and competing in championships. And that resonated with me. So I was like, that kind of attitude, that's where I want to go play ball. And so, man, and when I say it was so many factors to it, man, we actually even had this little grid. Like I said, I had no intention. We had this spreadsheet, and Miami graded out higher than everywhere else too as well. So it's one of those things that my dad and I just felt like, hey, the Lord really lead me go down to Miami, man, and chase my dreams. I knew the way University of Miami was set up and the way the exposure it had, and then also having the coach at the time, Butch Davis, I knew that if I could get on the field and if I could play well, it would give me an opportunity. Not a guarantee, but an opportunity to go to that next level, the NFL. And so I was like, let's go. And like I said, I had coaches that trained me up, that poured into me. I wasn't scared of competition. So let's go compete, and best person win.
What kind of coach was Butch Davis to you personally?
Hey man, Butch and I still close, man. We still cool. I talk to him every blue moon now. He didn't play. he held us accountable. Myself, he knew what kind of person I was, and so he always challenged me to be the best version of me, to not let anything distract me, um, and to be my best. And there was a healthy mixture of I had respect for him, but I also had a healthy fear of him as well. Like I knew, like, hey, Butch didn't play games. If you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, there were consequences. And so, and he pushed us uh, to be great, man. He pushed us to. I mean, he allowed me to run track in college. Some people don't know, but I was also a 5-time conference champ in track and field. In Miami as well. But that's something he supported because he also felt like, hey, the better I am in track, the better receiver I might be too. He was real supportive with that. But and he had an open door policy, man. If we had problems, issues, man, he knew how to use his influence uh, for what we needed. But when I say that, I'm not saying in a negative way or pulling strings. I mean, like, hey, he knew if we had troubles, man. I've seen him with guys, with I had teammates, man, that became fathers, at their young age, and Butch tried to put things in place to help them out, to where change the schedule, rearranging, training table times for them, or even times we had tutoring, things like that. He would make adjustments so these guys could, take care of their responsibilities, and that's something that I respected, with Butch during my time there.
Okay, let's get into the 1997 season. Obviously, you're still on probation. Went 5-6. The game that I want to get into was, unfortunately, the first game beat Baylor 45-14. Let's talk about that game because Baylor, that's in Texas, right? Baylor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that game. Winning that first game of your college career, 45-14.
Hey, that game was bittersweet for me because you think about this. I'm a true freshman. I've left the state of Texas, and now my first game coming back home is in Waco, Texas, which is about an hour 15 from where I grew up. My uncle and aunt lived there. I had an uncle that played football at Baylor. So of course, I got all kind of family and friends want to come to the game. And then also, I had some guys that were actually on a recruiting trip. So when we came out to warm up, I saw guys that I knew, guys that I competed against in football and track, man, that were actually on a visit to Baylor and were at the game because they wanted to see Miami. And I remember running out and they seeing me, and I told them something that was funny. First game of the year, I was initially on number 2 on the depth chart behind Magic Benton. But Magic missed a practice and a curfew, and so he was suspended for the first half, a team suspension for the first half against Baylor, which bumped me to number 1. So I was the starting Z. First game of the year, true freshman at home. I have like 40, 50 people in the stands, man, draped in hurricane gear, and we had a senior quarterback who didn't trust me yet, and I started true freshman at home, and he didn't throw me one ball. I was ticked off. I was like, dude, throw me a hitch route. Throw me something, Our veteran receiver, Omar Rowe, I think he probably caught like 9 passes that game, and we ran a pro set back then. So a pro set, for those that don't know, was primarily a 2-back system. So we ran a 2-back, 1 tight end, 2 receiver system, unless third down. And on third down, sometimes we might bring in a third receiver. So we weren't one of those run and shoot offenses. We did not run a spread back then. So we were primarily run first team, and a lot of our passes off play action. So out of that pro set was a little different. So you didn't have, the number of receptions in a game like you'll see today, receivers with the style of play and the number of plays that's run in a game. So that game was a little bittersweet where it was fun. But I still to this day, I joke with Clement sometime when I see him. I'm like, you should have thrown me at least one ball at the crib, man. You should have thrown me at least one. So, but no, that was a great experience, man. And even seeing some guys come of age, in that game, Edgerrin James, I believe his first touch, was a touchdown. And I remember him literally telling me on the sideline, as soon as he get the ball, he taking it to the house. and he did just that. Had a big game that game, and really kind of that got the rest of his career set in stone. He's Hall of Fame now, so it's pretty sweet.
Okay, so yeah, you go 5-6, and let's fast forward to the '98 season, the sophomore year. You go 9-3. You improve. You go have a bad record, and the game I want to talk about was the without question the UCLA game against
Yeah,
yeah, Edgerrin James. He had a big game. He had
yeah,
299 yards. Yeah, he just had an excellent game. And
yeah.
talk about that game, winning 49-45. That was the game of the year, and that's not
That,
UCLA
that was
out of national
that was
championship picture.
it did, man, and that started to get us back on track, man. That game really kind of catapulted us into being relevant again in college football, so to speak. And a lot of that attributed to really the off season, man. During that off season, a bunch of us decided. The receivers. This was in a newspaper article. Matter of fact, I'll be honest. I think Santana Moss or somebody said it before I even agreed to it, but they made the statement that the receivers we weren't cutting our hair until we won a bowl game. And so I was a little upset about that. I was like, back then I used to like keep a fade. Now I'm bald headed, but I kept a tight fade back then. And but we made a commitment, man, to work. We stayed home instead of going home for the summer. We stayed at school instead of going home for the summer. And man, we just worked out together, man. Did everything together, and it created a niche. It created a closeness and a competitive nature within us, to where we saw we improved as far as our wins and losses. And the UCLA game was interesting because we were supposed to play earlier in the year, and we had a hurricane. Now I remember I was mad because the hurricane never even hit. It was beautiful that Saturday morning. I was mad. I'm like, man, I'm at home. We sitting there watching. I'm in my dorm room watching college football that day, knowing we supposed to be playing UCLA. But it set up something pretty sweet later, because we had a tough loss against Syracuse that none of us anticipated, and we got ready for that UCLA game. Man, we had lost Reggie Wayne. Wasn't able to play that game, and that was a big hit because he was our leading receiver as far as receptions. And but man, we went in with a confidence that UCLA wasn't ready for us, man. And they had a nice squad. I mean, they threw that ball all over the field, but our defensive backfield did enough of what they were supposed to do in getting us the ball. And as you already read, Edgerrin James was just unstoppable, man. In that game, that's one of the things I love about huddling up. I kind of missed that today when watching games today. They just stay spread out and call plays from the sideline. But the conversations and things we would say to each other in that huddle and look at each other and Edgerrin that game, he was unbelievable, man. So I knew he was great. Matter of fact, when he was the first running back in the draft. I told everybody, as cold as Ricky Williams is, and Ricky Williams was the Heisman winner, all of that, I was like, Edgerrin James is that dude. And in that game, it was pretty special, man. It was a pretty special win, and that is really what got us. It really launched us into what I truly believe of why I even came to Miami and being the kind of team and the kind of organization we really could be.
Yeah, UCLA was ranked number 3 in the country, undefeated. Yeah, Edgerrin James had 39 carries for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that was a game of the year in 1998.
First game of the year, man. He actually had over 300 when his last catch. He tried to bounce or something outside and lost yards, and I was mad because I wanted him to finish over 300. But he was unstoppable. And Andre King and Santana Moss, they couldn't stop Moss, man. I remember he caught a deep corner route for a touchdown. I called it from the sideline because I knew when I saw the coverage, I was like, oh, this 6. So pretty special win, man. And it brings back memories even talking about it.
Okay, so you go to a bowl game, your first bowl game. It was the Micron PC Bowl. You beat North Carolina State 46-23. What are your recollections of that game?
Um, it was great. That game, uh, it was kind of let's say in my mind. I'm not gonna say the team, but just in my mind, it was a game for me that I was like, okay, we're in a bowl, but we got to get this next level bowl games, but we couldn't take that team for granted. That was a team that had Torrey Holt, and Torrey Holt is, NFL Hall of Fame finalist. Torrey Holt was that dude in college football. He was raw. He single-handedly was dismantling FSU back in those days, and so we knew that was going to be a formidable opponent. But we went in that game with a high confidence that we would take care of business, and we wanted to make a statement to the country that all right, Miami's back in the conversation, and we also knew that that game would be big coming out of the probations and for recruiting and everything involved with competing at the level that we want to compete when it came to putting ourselves in positions to be in national championship contention. And so that's what I remember about that game. But it was a good time. My first bowl experience. So it's pretty cool with receiving some of the bowl gifts and things that you get, and the activities they do. I think they did a pretty cool job with that. But our coach did a good job of keeping us focused on the game as well.
All right, so go to the 1999 season. The first game of the season, I remember this one. This was a game against Ohio State, kickoff classic. Yeah, once upon a time, New Jersey used to like have those early season games, kickoff classic.
Yeah.
You beat Ohio State 23-12. Talk about that game in 1999.
You know what? That game was interesting because I was ready to go, but I actually redshirted in '99. It was kind of written up like I was hurt or something, but that wasn't really the case. I kind of strained my hamstring in training camp, and I was ready to go week one, but Santana and Reggie had positioned themselves to likely be first rounders following the '99 season. And then we all came in together. So '99 would have been all of our junior year. So they would have been eligible for the draft. And the anticipation was the way they were trekking with that they would probably go pro after the end of the '99 year. And then we also had Andre King, who played 4 or 5 years of baseball, then came back to Miami. So he was the same class with us, but King was old. We called him Uncle King because he was a lot older than us. We came into college at U1. We were 18 years old. King was like 22, 23 years old. So, and then we had just brought in a couple of freshmen, and nobody really knew how that would turn out. And look, we brought in a little no-name red shirt named Andre Johnson, right? Nobody knew he was gonna be Hall of Fame, caliber too. So we brought in a couple of guys, and so coaches talked to me about the pros and cons of considering red shirt in that year. That way, I would also have an extra year, and I would be kind of, senior leader, kind of captain for the receiving core with some young guys behind me. And so something that my dad and I really prayed about. We looked at the pros and cons, and really the only con was my pride, because I had had two game-winning touchdowns. One in double overtime against Boston College my freshman year, another one against ranked West Virginia my sophomore year, '98. So '99, redshirting to be with the freshmen. I was like, I don't know what that looked like, and it was a really while it was I had to I grew a lot as a young man during that time because what our coaches did was typically red shirts don't have to travel. I traveled to all the games. They made me dress and warm up for all the games, and I remember being so mad and so bitter, man. It's like, dude, I was like, but it really shaped me in a lot of work ethic and a mindset of doing what I need to do, doing what I can for my team, for those that I'm accountable to help in whatever way I could. And so that '99 season was pretty sweet from the standpoint that I think I grew a lot as a person, and not just athletically. And so and that year was pretty sweet. We started out, we beat Ohio State. We lost a couple games we shouldn't have. We came close in that game '99 year against Florida State. They just had a little too much for us that year, being honest. And then we finished strong, closing out, winning the bowl game against Georgia Tech, playing against Joe Hamilton, who was a great Heisman candidate that season as well. I had a lot of fun practicing and being Joe Hamilton in practice, getting our defense ready for that game. So that was pretty fun too.
Yeah, the Penn State game, let's get into that one. That was a monumental game. And the Penn State Miami always has a great history between each other. The '87 Fiesta Bowl, the fatigue game, the '91 game, the '92 game. This is the first time in 7 years at that time that your squad met them.
Yeah.
And you lose, unfortunately, to 27-23. And that game was Choppy Fields. He caught that pass and he went all the way for a touchdown. I mean,
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Chaffee,
talk about that.
Chaffee did what he was supposed to do, man. That was, I ain't gonna lie, that was an epic moment because right before that play, man, I just knew we had won the game. We had done everything we needed to do to win that game except on that one play, man. And I remember our coach got some flack for calling the all-out blitz. But if you look at the situation, circumstances, man, I don't blame the call. Penn State, they just executed better than we did on that play, man. And it was another moment that I realized when it comes to sports, man. It like they say, it ain't over till it's over. Like that game was over. That game was over, and then it wasn't. And it's like you can't take your foot off the gas. You can't quit. You cannot take your opponent for granted at any moment because at any moment it can change like that. And so I think that loss hurt enough. It really got our attention to get us as a squad and even us as some that were younger to really think about, okay, what does it really take to win and win at a high level? To win and to execute at times in games where you gotta make the play, and that was one of the things. But yeah, when Choppy Fields caught that, hey, I got to meet Choppy a little later, later on in life, man. I told him, I said, dude, that was epic. If you're a receiver, you want moments like that. And he had that moment, so that was pretty dope.
Yeah, that was 79 yards, and Michael Rump was on the coverage.
Yeah,
the
man.
coverage on Michael Rump, and he
Yeah.
went 79 yards. And James Jackson, very underrated back, scored a
Yeah.
39-yard touchdown, went 39 yards. He got a block
Yeah.
from right guard Richard Mercier. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yo, when JJ scored, JJ is an underrated back. If you go back and watch some film of JJ was cold. JJ could play, man, and he just lumped in there with a lot of great backs we had during that era, So he gets kind of lost in the shuffle, but JJ was raw, man. And yeah, man, that game stung, man. That game hurt because we thought we had that, but again, like I said, I think it was a big learning moment for us, understanding what it takes, what it really takes to win. Because Penn State was a formidable, team, man, and you want games like that. You want to be in those games. You come to schools like Miami and Penn State to be on national TV and play each other. And so it's in those moments you got to step up and make the play. And Rump, my boy, man. Rump had the coverage and failed and didn't make the play. He kind of fell out. He swiped at it. He fell. Chaffee caught it, and it was just like, dude, it was raining, so you don't even expect, you didn't even expect that to happen, man. But like I said, it ain't over till that clock is 0-0-0.
yeah. So the next week, unfortunately, you lose to East Carolina, 27-23. Talk about that.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game. Garrard went off at quarterback. We were up, I think, by 3 touchdowns or something like that, and we had some unfortunate fumbles. We had some injuries. Najee had torn his ACL. James Jackson had a high ankle sprain, and so we actually we were down to freshman running backs, Clint Portis and Jared Payton. And Clint had a great game, except for he had a number of fumbles, man, that ended up being costly, which changed him to be the Pro Bowl back that he ended up becoming. Because Clint became, I think, but he was, I think Clint was 17 years old in that game. He was like one of the youngest freshmen to play to be starting in college football, and man, that was a heartbreak, especially getting ready to go into Florida State, which actually brought up a conversation after that game. Because we were just left with freshman running backs, there was a strong conversation about me the following week, starting at tailback that next week. I was I had come in, I was the reigning Big East 100-meter champ. I was healthy, and but we decided that wasn't the course that I need to go. I didn't need to be going to running back and then lose all that time. As far as I would have lost half the season. So, but. Yeah, that game was tough, and like I said, the next week we almost got we didn't do enough. We didn't have enough to get it done against Florida State, but it was kind of those times of really, and you see a lot of the guys that were playing. Those are a lot of maturation that was going on there that I think really prepared a lot of guys to be great.
Yeah, and that East Carolina game, Yeah, you was up. Your team was up 23-3. Had a 20-point lead.
Yeah,
3 minutes into the third quarter, and ended up losing the game. Unfortunately, 27-23. Yeah, the
yeah.
Florida State
You know
game.
what? You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna say something about that game too. This is what I learned about when you lose scholarships, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts. It hurts bad because I remember having a thought. Remember, I had to travel to all the games, so it was a hurricane, so we couldn't play at East Carolina because of the flooding. So we ended up playing. I think we played at North Carolina State. We played at their stadium, and so I remember being up there, and it was late in the fourth quarter, and we had some injuries. And when I say this, man, I'm speaking truly from an athletic perspective. This is no shade. I don't mean any harm by this statement I'm about to say. But we had somebody that we had a walk on that needed to go in nickel coverage, and hey, he was on the squad. He was one of us. But I remember when he had to run on that field, I looked and said, Florida State don't have that problem. They got bodies. They got, we used to call them, they got a lot of bullets in the chamber. I mean, we were out of our guys and had to put a walk on that really had no business of being on the field for the University of Miami in crunch time in the fourth quarter. He just wasn't that guy. He just wasn't that kind of athlete. And I remember thinking about that's how punishing a team and taking away scholarships to catch up to you when you run out of the depth that some of the teams have. Like when you look at Alabama right now, Alabama's been dominating because Saban has dominated the recruiting landscape. So guys leave, guys get hurt, man. You got a dude that comes right in and they ready to go. And that was something that we had to build up in Miami. So 99 was one of those last years where we saw the effects of, say, 96, 97, 98 not having the number of scholarships, but then we were getting them back. And so that's why 2000 and 2001 and 2002 looked a lot different because we were ready to reload and get the depth. And so that East Carolina game was where I learned the importance of, like, man, how you gotta stack them up, man. You gotta have guys ready to go when you have injuries because you never know how a game will play out.
Yeah, the Florida State game. Yeah, I remember that game. And that game was without Peter Ward. And Peter Ward was an
Yeah.
electrifying receiver. He
Okay.
didn't even play.
What was the man?
And
Yes.
you lose 31-21. Talk about that game. That was very close, competitive. You was right there, but you fell short by 10 points. Talk about that
Yeah.
game.
I think it's the same thing, man. I think it was the same thing as I was saying, man. We went into that game with freshman running backs. We went into that game with some injuries on defense, and we just didn't have enough. Just didn't have enough, man. They went wire to wire. They was number one preseason. They ended up winning it all, beating D Tech, and that was for a reason, man. Those boys are stacked, man. As much as say we have this rivalry, there's also a respect, So while I have no love for Florida State, but I respect the mess out of them, though. You mean the boys they and during that time, man, they had some horses, man. And so their team and the depth they had and that defense they had, which their defense did get a lot of credit for what they really were. Um, that they beat us, man. We didn't have enough. We played well. My boy Kenny Kelly, starting quarterback at that time. We were roommates freshman year, man. He had a great game. It's his first year as a starter. But with the leadership they had from Winky, being a lot older, being a lot more mature, they got done. They made plays late in that game that really solidified that deal because we had some opportunities, but we didn't capitalize on it. And so yeah, they got it done and they kept it going, man. Won the national championship that year.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the Georgia Tech game. You talk about Joe Hamilton. Uh, you beat Georgia Tech 28-13. I think Ken Dorsey played in this game too. Correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong, Ken Dorsey. So talk about that game and Ken Dorsey being in this game.
Hey, so Kenny Kelly had some injuries, and Dorsey was coming in doing some spot playing, and they might have split time during that game. But what was pretty cool with that was that Dorsey showed really what he was and what he was gonna be, man. His decision making, his playmaking ability was special. We watch film, and Dorsey, he went where he should go almost every time with the ball. He was a student of the game. He can make the throws, and Dorsey is competitive. He's even now, all the games he won in college, but as an NFL coach and all the things he's achieved, man. His competitive nature, man. He doesn't quit, and so that game was really cool. And it was a coming out party for some guys like Clint Portis, as a true freshman, still had a huge game, had some amazing runs in that game, and that really, I think that bowl game was needed for us. It was a January 1 bowl, which those are the bowls you want to go to. And so it was a January 1 bowl, and that was when we knew we were on track. We were on track and on schedule to be heading in the direction we want to be. As I keep saying, we wanted to be in national championship contention, and so we knew we had to win that game to be in that conversation for that next season.
Okay, so now we forward to fast forward to the 21st century, 2000. Now expectations are really really high. Like you was talking about the depth. It seemed like this was the year in 2000 where the depth started to come into play. The game I want to talk about, unfortunately, no, you beat McNeese State 61-14, but the next game was against Washington, and that was a game that was major because, in '91, 30 years ago, Miami shared the national championship with Washington, and then in '94, unfortunately, they beat, your team, obviously wasn't on the team, but Miami, had this 58 game winning streak snap, losing
Yeah,
38-20. Now you play them in Washington. Unfortunately, lose this game 34-29, which would be the last. It would be a long time since Miami would lose at that time. Like 3 years, they had went on a 34 game winning streak. But talk about unfortunately losing that game in Washington.
man. That was a heartbreaker, man. That game. I never like to make excuse. Well, I don't offer excuses, but one of the things that I learned too is that during that game, when there's bad calls or what you perceive to be a bad call by the ref, you got to play anyway. And so in that game, man, we had some calls that were really um, unfortunate, and the timing was bad. It cost us some certain things, and we did not do enough to overcome them, man. And so we had opportunities, and we didn't have enough, man. And so I believe both of us were ranked. We were both ranked top 10. I want to say we might have been ranked. Well, both of us top 5. I know it was. They might have been number 6. We might have been number 3. I forgot what it was, but it was a big time game. And Tuyasa Sopo and those guys, man, they got it done. They ended up going, I think, with 10-1 that year too as well. And so, and that was a game that really ended up. We lost by 5 on the road, and it was the second game of the year. And after that, man, we really made a commitment to each other about how we were going to approach the rest of the season and what we thought we needed to do to make a run to get into that BCS National Championship game. And it was after that, man, that you see somewhat a shift in us and how we approached and how we actually played against teams and how we beat teams the rest of that season. So yeah, man, that was a big game. That was a tough loss because that loss eventually kept us out of the national championship, which we would have played Oklahoma that year had we taken care of business.
Now the game I want to get to obviously is the Florida State game. Florida State was defending national champions, and they came into this game the 17 game winning streak, and you win that game 27-24. Obviously, that was a monumental game for the
Oh,
program.
huge.
Talk about that game. Wide right, part
That,
three.
that's my first time beating Florida State, man, on the field, and that was sweet. That was sweet because the young people maybe listening today don't realize how big those games were back in those times. We used to call Florida State game the TV game. That's going to be on national TV. Everybody's going to be watching. That game historically had national championship implications, the Miami Florida State game. So we knew how big that game was. Again, coming in defending champs, Chris Winkie, at the helm, the quarterback, man, and the athletes and the talent they had. We knew we had to have a certain level of execution, man. And so I'm gonna let some people get a peek behind the curtain of Miami football during Florida State week. So one of the things that you get in Florida State mode is the the Sunday before that Saturday game. So in the locker room, when it hits midnight, so it starts that Sunday morning. There's a loop of a song that plays in the University of Miami locker room leading up to Florida State game, and it's their Tomahawk chant. It's and it plays 24/7. No matter what time you go in, you walk in the locker room, you hear oh, oh. We practice with that chant going because one of the things is it happens. They when you play Florida State, they will do that. The fans and the band play that all throughout the game, and it can be deafening sometimes on the road and away. And so our coaches put us in the mindset to where that music, that song won't even bother us. It's almost like it become white noise. We don't even hear it anymore. And they get louder when they make plays. We don't even hear it. And so it's a lot that goes into that game. And of course, me being a Texas boy, I didn't have a lot of this, but I had some guys actually from Texas that played at Florida State during that time. So Montre Holland, Patrick Hughes, those guys are from Texas. So we all friends now. We talk noise, have a good time. But those are some guys I knew from home state, there. But then a lot of the guys on our team grew up playing against guys like with Florida State. So some of these guys played high school ball together. They played against each other in high school. So there's a lot going on in that game, and that game was pretty sweet to get that win, to get that W. And I'm gonna tell you, if the last drive, the go-ahead touchdown drive, they had scored and they were kicking off, and I told Dorsey, I said, I'm not, if they kick me in, I'm not taking a knee. I'm gonna get it out. I'm gonna try to, if I can't remember, I'm gonna try to get it out as far. I was like, because 80 yards in the time clock, I was like, man, that's gonna be tough. I said, I'm gonna try to shorten the field. And so I brought it out where I probably should have taken a knee, but I got it out to about the 35, 40, somewhere around there. And from there, I said, let's go, and we made the plays, man. And I think Shockey caught the go-ahead touchdown. And, we gave him enough time, though, to try to to take the thing to overtime. And like you said, it was another wide right. He missed it. It was just a little too far. He tried to put a little too much on it. And we walked out there with that W. So that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, this game, obviously snapped Florida State's 17-game winning streak, and it marked the 9th time since 1984 that Miami halted an opponent's double-digit winning streak. So that shows you how when Miami was great, like that team in 2000, they always find a way to beat a team with a double-digit winning streak, and that was the 9th time at that time. Yeah, Shockey scored with 51 seconds left. Santana Moss had 7 catches for 115 yards. And Dan Morgan, very underrated linebacker, had a big game, 17 tackles, forced fumble, and an interception at the 2-yard line. So that was a big win. Let's get into fast forward to Virginia Tech. That was another big win, winning 41-21. I think Virginia Tech was number 2 in the country. Talk about that game.
Yeah, man. So we beat number 1, came back to beat number 2. Michael Vick, it just come off a tear in '99, and all the accolades and hype that surrounded him. But like I said, we were on a mission, man. We believed, it can be easy to say in hindsight, but we believed after that Washington loss, man, that it wasn't gonna happen again. We weren't gonna have it, and so we went into that VTech game with the mindset that we don't. Mike Vick, it don't matter who's showing up in front of us. We gonna do what we need to do, and that was a cool game. It was an afternoon game. It's funny. They used to schedule us at night when it was freezing up there in November, and they come here. We scheduled it at noon, where it's hot and humid, and that humidity was catching up to them, man. And we had at that time we had built up our depth chart was stacked. We were rotating defensive linemen, and you made mention of Dan Morgan. Dan Morgan, one of the most decorated linebackers in NCAA history, man. We call him Danimal. Danimal ran a 4.4 at middle linebacker, man. He was a monster, and our that defense, along with our guys with Moss, Reggie Wayne, that backfield with at the time still James Jackson, Clint Portis now more mature, Najee Davenport, man. We were rolling, and so like I said, we went in with a mindset that game. We knew the stakes. We knew if we beat number 2, we are legitimate contenders for this national championship. And so we went out and took care of business.
Yeah, and this win, you snapped another winning streak. The Hokies Virginia Tech had a 19-game regular season winning streak. You
Mm-hmm.
snapped that. Also, you snapped a 5-game losing streak
Yeah.
to Virginia Tech. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a big, big win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No.
let's fast forward to Florida. You beat the Gators. Have been a long time since 1987
Yeah.
that Miami played the Gators. You win 37-20. Talk about that
Yeah.
game.
Hey, we were. Let me be honest. We were upset. We were upset that the BCS didn't put us in the national championship
Yeah,
game. Man, we had the last 3 games of the year. We had beat some ranked opponents. We had, I think, outscored them like 112 to like 10 or 17. I mean, they were blowouts. And back then, margin of victory was considered within supposedly in the BCS calculations, and they didn't put us in. So we actually went into that Florida game with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, to be honest, man. We felt that we deserved over Florida State to be in a national championship game, and we wanted to show the country that we thought we were the best team in the country. And so we went against a really, really good Florida team. You know, they had Lito Shepherd at corner. They had they were rotating at quarterback, Rex Grossman and Palmer, Jesse Palmer. They had Ernest Graham at running back. They had Riche and Gaffney at receiver. I mean, they could score. They could score. You know, their offense was potent. And so, but again, I tell you, we went in. We believe we were the best team in the country, and we had each other's back in such a way that was pretty remarkable. And so to pull off a big win like that in the Sugar Bowl, I think was epic. But that win was really to be a statement to the NCAA and to the country of what we thought we really were and what we were going to be going forward.
Your squad, that team should have been in the national championship game. Should have won the national championship. I mean, when you beat the #1 team in Florida State, #2 team in Oklahoma, should have won the national championship. That should have been good enough.
I'm like, dude, how in the world the BCS didn't put us in?
Yeah,
We lost the second game of the year by 5 on the road to a top 10 team. That team goes on to go 10-1. They lost only one game that year, so it wasn't like they were a bad opponent, and it wasn't a bad loss. And then we run the table, beat #1 and #2, and we were blowing folk out, and they put Florida State in over us, man. So that hurt, man. That's upsetting. I still believe, and I got buddies that were on that Oklahoma team. Hey, much respect, they got it done. Undefeated national champions. Congratulations. And I tell them without bad, I tell them with no. I mean, out there, y'all thank God y'all didn't play us that year, because y'all that would have been our ring. We would have won that game. But hats off to them, man. They did what they supposed to do.
yeah. Washington finished #3 in the AP poll. Miami finished #2 and Oklahoma finished #1. So let's fast forward to 2001. Now this is the truly, crystallizes, the culmination of Miami being back to being the U like they used to be. And you're gonna start with 2001. You beat Penn State 33-7, hostile environment, and you just that offense was just such a well-oiled machine. You just dominated that game. Talk about that performance against Penn State.
Hey, when I say we worked after that Sugar Bowl, it virtually was no break. We had something to prove, man, to ourselves and to the country. And so that 2001 going into Penn State, I hate to say it like this because it can sound wrong, but it was kind of a check off the box. It was like, who's next? Who's next? And the Penn State, we knew that was big, going up to Happy Valley, Death Valley, whatever they call it, some valley. It didn't matter. No offense to my Penn State folk in there, but it didn't matter. They had just added on to the stadium too, so I think it was like a record for Penn State fans. It was like 113, 117,000.
Yeah, they expanded it.
It was crazy. It was really cool. I will say this: it was a cool environment, and we had looked forward to. One of the things we talked about was like, we want all 100. Like if we had 20,000 in the stands, we wanted the other 100,000. If it was, I'm gonna say 120,000, we wanted 100,000 people in there quiet. We wanted to shut the whole stadium up. And we went into that game believing that they were too big and we were too fast and too quick for them to keep up with us. And that was really our confidence going into that game. And so we went in there and hey, we handled that, and it was kind of like, all right, check #1, let's keep it going.
Yeah, Dorsey had a great game. Yeah, it was a record crowd at the expanded Beaver Stadium. Torrey had a great game, 20 of 27, 344 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Clinton Boys ran for 164 yards. And, your squad had a 30-0 halftime lead. This is a well-oiled machine in that game. Just running the ball, throwing it.
That was the score.
Yeah, 33-7. Okay,
Yeah.
so the next game, I want to get into is Florida State. You beat them a year ago. Now you go to Doak Campbell Stadium, and you beat them 49-27. I think that was the, snapping of the 54-game unbeaten streak that Florida State had. So talk about winning in that game, because at that time, Florida State hadn't lost in a long time, had a long unbeaten streak. Talk about winning up there at Doak Campbell Stadium.
That game. The Florida State game, as I said, is always a different kind of game, man. And we knew, of course, again, national championship implications. We lose that game, we're out of the conversation for a national championship. But then, like I said, it go even deeper than that, because these are guys for the rest of our lives, man. We're gonna be talking about the games we played against each other. And going into Doak Campbell was one of the most tough environments to play in. The noise, the atmosphere. Everything, just the pressure in every way, from knowing it's an ESPN game. Like I said, it's just so much pressure during that game. But again, that 2001, we felt more prepared. We felt as though we by far were the best team, and we came out there again, with all the implications surrounding it. We coming to check a box off, man. In Florida State, you up this week, you gonna get it this week, and we moving on to the next. And so that was a pretty sweet win, man. I actually got a high ankle sprain in that game, which was devastating, man. Caused me to miss a lot of time during the rest of the year, which was another step for me growing up, man. I was actually married. I got married the summer before the season, so I was the married uncle in the locker room, and I remember I had a whole bunch of thoughts about what my future might be and all of that. But then I realized, I was like, hey, I did all I could do to help my team. I was like a player coach, doing the games that I was out. And but I knew it was special during that time, and watching the maturation of Andre Johnson just come to, oh my goodness, man, just become the monster that he is. It was pretty cool, man. It was a pretty sweet time of my life.
That was a big week. Andre Johnson had 5 catches for 111 yards. I think he scored a touchdown. Yeah, third scoring pass from Dorsey, who had three touchdowns.
He might score 2.
Huh?
He might score 2 that game.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Dre was unstoppable. Dre was a monster, man. He came into his own in 2001, man. His body matured, his mindset, the work he put in. Man, to be as big and as fast as Dre was, man, it was almost like it's not fair for defense, man. It's not fair.
Dorsey he threw 3 touchdown passes. Also, Ed Reed had was a 5th-year senior, had 2 interceptions and a blocked punt, despite having a dislocating right shoulder. Talk about the speech that he made. I think it was at halftime. It's a famous speech. Talk about that.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know where that came from. I look at that video, and I'm kind of standing there at the tail end, and you see him walk by me, and I'm walking behind, and I yell out, "Let's go!" I don't even know where it started. I don't even know why he was. We were winning the game, so I was like, I didn't even know why he was mad. But I looking back on it, I do know this. Like, one of the things is we weren't so much just satisfied with winning. As interesting that can sound, we wanted to be our best, if that makes sense. Even if we were winning and we were making mistakes, if we were making mental mistakes, if guys were jumping off sides or if guys were dropping balls, like, it don't matter. Like, yeah, we could be winning, but if something not right. So I think Ed was upset with some things that was going on because we weren't executing really to our best, even though we were handling the game. And I think it was a call again. It is one of our great leaders, from a call to accountability, man, to everybody do your job. Everybody do your job. Don't cut any corners, and don't quit. We will not relent until the game is over. And so That's really where they came from. But like I said, I don't even know where it got started. I was joking with him the other day. I was like, dude, I don't even know where that came from. But but it's in history though.
Okay, yeah, so okay, so you win that game. The game I want to get into, and I remember this game, Boston College, 18-7. And that's a game where Matt Walters intercepted the pass, and then Ed Reed, the guy that he was, the ball hawking safety that he was, just find a way to make a play. Took the ball out of his own teammate's hand, Matt Walters, and goes all the way for a touchdown to win 18-7. Talk about
Yeah.
that game at Boston College.
Hey, that game was scary. I'm not gonna lie, man. We were not executing. We were not playing well on offense, man. Our defense kept us. That was a huge defensive win. We were up, 11-7. I don't even know how we
Yep.
got 11 points. I don't even know how we got 11 points, man. But we just weren't. And defense was holding them down. And I remember Ed coming down, and he was like, "Offense, don't worry about it. They won't score anymore. We gonna stop them." And he was like, "Y'all just do what y'all do." And for some reason, man, we just weren't executing. We weren't getting it done. And when that play happened, I remember on their last drive, they had converted 2 4th downs. And so I was really just kind of coming back off my high ankle sprain injury. I think I might have played like 2 plays. I was limping. My coach, I kept begging to go back in, but he was like, "I'm limping too much." And I remember when the when they were driving, I had told the defense, and I was with Andre, I was like, if they score, me or Andre are running the kickback. We will not lose this game. And they were getting in position to score. And I remember for some reason, I was watching the receiver, and Mike Rump jammed that receiver up at the line so well, he couldn't get off the line. And the quarterback threw the ball anyway. So Mike was in position to catch the interception. But if I got any DBs listening right now, receivers and DBs always talk noise to each other. So Mike Rump being the DB he is, that ball hit him like right in the stomach and his thigh, and he kicked it up, and that's how Matt Walters caught it. And I say being a DB, it is. DBs are great athletes that can't catch, right? So, so Mike's supposed to have that interception, but it popped up in there, and Matt caught it. And I remember Ed snatched out his hand, and I told Ed, "Don't ever do that again." If you think about it, he snatched out his hand. If Matt didn't give him the ball, if he fumbles that ball and Boston gets it back, I mean, it's a problem. So, but Ed ran that thing back, closed the game out. It was a wrap, and so it was almost like, all right, next up. But again, it goes to what I said. The mindset we had was, hey, we're gonna get it done, and not every game is gonna be easy. Not every game is gonna be a blowout. But you gotta compete. You gotta execute for all 4 quarters. You gotta execute till that game is over. And that was another one of those games where you saw, I think, our maturity and our and how our mindset was in approaching the game.
The following week, you play Syracuse, played much better. You win 59-0 against a good, Syracuse team. You win 59-0. Talk about that game.
Um, that game, being honest, we were. It was kind of like a response to the year before. We didn't want to leave any doubt of who we were. We didn't want the BCS. We put no trust or any faith in the BCS because we like they'll do whatever they want to do anyway. So we wanted to leave no question when it came to that Syracuse game, and 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 closing out as we should, in a sense, getting ready. Knowing we're gonna go into a tough opponent in Virginia Tech up there in Blacksburg.
Okay, so the next game obviously was a revenge game against Washington. You beat them 65-7.
Yeah.
Dominant performance. Talk about that game.
Uh, that was pretty cool, and that was my senior night against that team. And I will say this, man. Sometimes people don't like to say it, but it really was a revenge game, man. It was a revenge game against Washington, a revenge game against BCS, a revenge game against ourselves. That we were upset of what could have been the year before, and we were coming out. And so, man, we were clicking on all cylinders. Our offense unstoppable. Our defense was just relentless. Our defense was unbelievable that game, and we had a good time, man. And one of the things was as a team, we had some senior leadership. We had a number of fifth-year seniors um, and our team as a whole wanted to send the seniors out for senior night on a high note, and so we really had a really good time and a lot of fun in that game. And that's why you play the game really to have fun. That was one of the funnest games of playing, not just because we were winning. Yeah, that makes it fun. Nobody has fun losing, but we really just had a lot of fun playing with each other.
Yeah, Dorsey had three touchdown passes. Jerome McDougal, I think he's a junior transfer, right? He scored on a touchdown. Jerome McDougal, but he was a transfer. I
Mm-hmm.
think a junior transfer at the time.
You know what? I guess Duke was a transfer. I don't even, to be honest, man. Some of them guys, I see that some of the guys on defense sometimes, man. We, football is an interesting sport because sometimes you spend so much time with your position groups and your side of the ball that yeah, you get to know some guys on the other side of the ball, but it's almost like two teams within one team. And so Jerome McDougal, Vince Wilfork. I know Vince came in early. He was a true freshman, but he came in that spring. And so our D line was unreal. I think we were rotating eight, three or four of them were first round picks. They were unreal. And McDougal coming off that end, McDougal and Andrew Williams, man, them boys could run. And so those quarterbacks were in trouble. And so like I said, our defense from our every part from the D line, the linebackers, and the DBs, it was something special. I believe at that time, I think that year we might have. I know we had a school record. I think we had set some record with either margin of victory or
Yeah, I think so.
um, you was receiving touchdowns. Like I DBs, I don't think they gave up uh, only a couple of touchdowns passing. Like it was something crazy that year. Yeah, it was crazy.
I think it was like a record for beating two ranked opponents back to back weeks, something
Yeah,
like that. For the
yeah,
margin of victory, I think that's what you're referring to. I think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So now the last game of the season, obviously you had to go through Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, 24, but he was up, he was doing good, like far as playing in convincing fashion, but then they came back. They came down to a 2 point conversion, and Ernest Wilford didn't make the play. So
Yeah.
talk about that game, winning 26-24 to clinch opportunity to go to the Rose Bowl and play Nebraska.
Uh, that game was almost a heartbreaker because lessons we had learned before, we almost act like we didn't learn that lesson, and that's really don't take your foot off the gas, man. And I think we got very relaxed. I think we got we were up significantly, had the game in the bag. I remember guys at halftime, this was so out of character for us, but guys was. I remember we were talking about the Rose Bowl. We were talking about the next game, but we never talked like that. Or we always kept our current opponent, at the fore. And so um, I think some guys even made calls talking about booking, getting tickets booked, to the Rose Bowl, stuff like that, man. And you can't do an opponent like that. And it almost cost us. They started executing plays, man. I think they blocked a punt and a field goal,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
VTech is known for that, man. That Beamer ball, they execute. Beamer ball was known for they execute on all three sides of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams. And these special teams are always special. And so that was a game, man, that we got out of there with a win, and it was one of those fights tooth and nail. And one thing that I always respected about V Tech was a lot of teams used to come in and play against us during those times, afraid. They played scared. V Tech never scared of us. V Tech was never scared of
Yeah,
us, man.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
They look us right in the eye. And it's like, let's go. So every V Tech cat I respect, because them boys, they come with it. And so that was a game, man, that we did what we need to do to come out of there with that W, man. And I think that game actually was a wake up call to what you ended up seeing in the national championship game.
yeah. Like you said, the Beamer ball, the punt block. Yeah, linebacker Brandon Manning. Uh, he turned a 22-yard return. Eric Green made a punt block, and yeah, it came down to a 2 point conversion, and
Yeah.
Ernest Wilford dropped the 2 point conversion pass, and
Mm-hmm.
Grant Noel, threw the 2 point pass, but he got sacked 4 or 5 times and all that. So Ed Reed made an interception, and yeah, like you said, taking the foot off the gas pedal and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you was up 20-3. Your
Yeah.
squad was up 17 points, and you didn't know you put the game away. like you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So now it's the Rose Bowl. Here's a chance to get back to the national championship. Win it for the fifth time. You do that in grand style. You win. It was a no doubt in this game. You won 37-14. Talk
yeah.
about that win against Nebraska, finally winning the national championship. At that time, it had been 10 years since Miami won the national championship, and you finally, did it in 2000 for that season. Talk about
Yeah.
that game.
Oh man, we had the support of Hurricane Nation, man. All the past players, man, they would come and visit and cheering us on. They had our back in such a way we knew we were playing for something even bigger than ourselves. Of course, we're living our dream. You know, all of us had wanted to be in that moment. And so and then kind of seeing from myself being a fifth year senior, freshman year going 5-6 no bowl game and now undefeated for an opportunity to play for the national championship, man, was really answered prayer, man, dream come true. And so we went in, man. Uh, we worked so hard that week that barring any myself, or at least I know our receivers, barring anything that was mandatory, man, we were so tired or so whatever. We just stayed in the hotel, man. We didn't really do much during that week. Our mindset was the bowl week is for everybody else to enjoy. We're actually here to win a football game. And so while families and everybody was there having a good time for the week, all the Rose Bowl festivities, we knew we had a job to do. And so we came in, man. We came in shape. We came in ready. And at the end of the first quarter, I remember vividly getting on the when you see us on the sideline and we get on the phone, we're talking to one of the coaches up in the booth, in the booth that's watching the game and calling plays up there. And I remember telling CJ, our receiver coach, me and Andre got on the phone and we told him, we said they have quit. They literally quit. We saw it in their eyes. They quit. They would no mas. They didn't want any more, man. And years later, I found out one of the O linemen, Brett Rumberg. I'm not gonna say the O lineman's name, but Brett Rumberg. I started center, played on a team with a particular individual from the University of Nebraska that was an O lineman. And that O lineman before the game, he said during the week when they were, you do during the bowl game, there are different festivities and different things that happen, and the teams are together. So we went to Jay Leno's show together. We went to Disney together. We do a lot of stuff together. Now we're not mingling that much together. The captains, we spent a lot of time with their captains. So the Heisman Trophy winner Eric Crouch, me and our captains Dorsey and Ed Reed, Brian McKinney, Joaquin Gonzalez, we all hung out with their captains, Eric Crouch and those guys, Keo Craver and those guys. Uh, with the teams, we kind of would be in the same places, so we would see each other. And this offensive lineman told Rumberg that when they saw us, they thought we were small, and they thought they were gonna slap us around. And the offensive lineman told Rumberg in the middle of the first quarter, they were looking at us on the field, and he said they were like, "What in the world is this?" They had never seen uh, a team play so fast and so tenacious. And so, yeah, I think we had gone up 30-0, man. And I remember I was. This can sound crazy, but I'm gonna be honest. We were up 30-0, man. I was bored out of my mind. It was no, they weren't competing anymore. And I remember thinking, man, I just want to go to the hotel room and kick it with my wife, man. We get some room service and watch a movie because these dudes done quit. it was that kind of game, and and then we put out the break. Coca let us. He pulled us out. I actually wanted to play a little more because I only had one catch, and I was like, dude, I'm a senior. I need to get some more balls, And but man, what a great time. And like I said, it was a dream come true, answered prayer, man. Something I prayed about for years, and I'm grateful.
Okay, yeah, that capitalized, a great season, and most people think that team, that 2001 Miami Hurricane team, was the greatest ever because of the NFL talent that was on that team. Do you
Yeah,
agree? I know you maybe biased. You think that was the
yeah.
best Hurricane team of all
Let,
time?
Yeah, let me lead with okay. Yeah, I am biased, so I'm never gonna deny that. I am speaking from a biased position, but also with that, speaking from an objective standpoint, when you look at the year we had, the top 25, ranked teams, beating the Heisman Trophy, winning the national championship in the fashion we did, along with the talent, the NFL talent that was on that team. I believe that team right around 44, 45 NFL players, 17 first round picks on that team, going undefeated. Um, Potentially 5 NFL Hall of Famers on their team as well. Ed is in now. Gore will be in, and it's likely that Brian McKinney will get in. Vilma may get in at some point, and then also Vince Wilfork. And so it's likely that that team will also have 5 NFL Hall of Fame players as well. So it was a special team, man. When you go across the board, I don't think any other team in college football history measures up across the board. If you go position group by position group, if you went quarterback, to line, to tight ends, to backfield, to receivers, to D line, to linebackers and DBs, I don't think any of the team measures up. Now there are other great teams. I give my hats off, man. Last year's Alabama team, this past year, 2020's Alabama National Championship team, man, great team. I don't think that they are as good as, say, the year before, 2019 LSU team. I'm the first one to say that LSU squad was epic. We'll see what they do, it's coming to like going on even in the NFL careers. But all in all, looking across the board, I would say that 01 Miami team is something special. And even some of the veterans, the alumni that played on some of the great Miami teams, I remember they even said that they thought, they were like, pretty much all of them, they were saying that 01 Canes were the best Canes team, and arguably the best team in college football history.
Yeah, and we talked about the opponent's record against ranked opponents. The 2 games against Syracuse and Washington that you played, the team played against those teams. Yes, they had the largest deficit against ranked opponents in college football history, as far as Miami beating Syracuse 59-0, 65-7 against Washington. Yes, that was the largest deficit, right, as far as margin of victory that we have,
Yeah,
mentioned,
yeah,
talked
yeah,
about. Yeah,
yeah,
so that's true. That's the
yeah,
largest to this day.
yeah,
That has not been
yeah,
duplicated. So,
yeah.
yeah, that
That
was a
de-
great team.
I tell you, that defense was epic, dude.
Yeah,
That defense. Look, man, I, I, our practices were epic. Our practices were some of the most competitive. Our one on ones between receivers and DBs. I tell you, man, there's some tape around. I met a dude at a barbershop years ago. He was a high school coach. He had a tape of our one on one videos. All the NFL scouts would be there doing our one on ones, and it was a bunch of talking, a bunch of chatter, a bunch of noise talking, and some competing, man. And so it was that kind of atmosphere that bred us into what could have been. And this was I gave props, just a moment ago to some of the recent national champions. But what could have been, Miami, we really should have won 2000, 2001, and 2002.
yes, definitely.
In 3 years,
Yes,
we only got one of them out of there, which shows, how difficult it really is to win a national championship. And that's why I said, like, what Nick Saban is pulling off right now at Alabama is pretty remarkable, because it's difficult, man. It's difficult, and there's so many things that need to be occurring to get it done. And so I'm grateful, man. I thank God, man, for that opportunity. What it's done for my life, man. I use it as an example. It's funny being a national champion, and I got some pictures up on the wall. My kids couldn't care less, but I always use it as motivation for them to whatever dreams they have, whatever goals they set to chase them, and don't be scared, and don't be deterred. Be full throttle, go after it, learn what you need to do, and go do it. And so I let them know I was able to do it in my life. You can do it in your life.
okay, so now fast forward to the NFL career. You got drafted by the Giants. What was it like playing for the Giants?
Um, that was that man. That was when I keep saying dream come true, man. It was weird being honest. Growing up my whole life in Dallas, Texas, and then getting drafted to play for the New York Football Giants, man. I had uncles that told me they like, I love you, nephew, but I'm gonna cheer for you, but I'm not cheering for the Giants. It was real, but it was one of those things too, man. In that moment in my life, man, I didn't care who drafted me. I was ready to go play, and I was grateful. I came in, man. The Giants organization was very good to us. Um, had a lot of favor, man. Met some great people in the organization. And then veteran guys really embraced me, man. I built some good relationships with guys like Mike Barrow, Money Toomer, Ike Hilliard, um, Delvin Joyce, Ryan Clark, Mike Strahan. Man, those guys embraced me. They saw my competitiveness and my work ethic, and they respected me as a man, as a player, as a husband. And so it was really cool. It was really cool, man. My introduction to the NFL, going to the largest market, in the world, going to New York. But it was really cool, and I learned a lot from that experience. And like I said, it was a dream come true, and learning the business of it. Football is a business, and so learning the business of it as well was a really cool time and milestone.
So you played with them for 1 year, and then you went to Chicago and Minnesota. So why such a short, career in the NFL? What happened? What went wrong?
Yeah,
What happened?
man, it was interesting, man. A lot of ways it's hard for me to even explain, but because some ways, man, I don't know, man. I thought my career was gonna go a certain way, and it didn't. Um, I got to Chicago, man. I thought Chicago was gonna be my spot. I really like Chicago, and when I got released, it didn't make any sense to me, just in my mind. I remember everybody was surprised, man. We had a bunch of injuries. We had three of the starting four DBs that got hurt. We had a couple of linemen that got hurt, and so from that we had um, um, we had they had to bring in. You only get so many people on the roster, so they had to bring in. So they called me and said they're gonna release me, but they were hoping nobody signed me and they would bring me back. And man, it didn't happen. And the next week, the starting quarterback Rex tore his knee, so they ended up bringing in like two quarterbacks. So it was just crazy, man. So I had gone back home and started a Bible study, man, and started going to seminary for ministry. I had answered my call to preaching during that time, and just really thinking about what I was doing. But I'm still training, still getting ready, and then I went up to Minnesota, and I was there just shortly, and I had tore a little tendon in my finger, and I remember just before that I had talked.
Played high school football at Merritt Island. I mean, he was the man. He was Mr. Merritt Island. If there's any one person that we can honestly say that is the king of Merritt Island at that particular time, it would have been him. Um, and he just kind of took me under his wing. Like I said, the family were real close. He started varsity basketball, started varsity football in the 10th grade, and those were the things that I set my sights on. Whatever he did, I wanted to accomplish. He went to the University of Miami. I came to the University of Miami. He went off and played professional football. I played for a little bit. He paved the way. Where I'm from is a little bit of a small town, not population. At a minimum, especially when these little towns in the state of Florida. But he was one of the ones that showed me that there's a different life outside of Merritt Island, and I followed his path.
Okay. In high school, were there any other sports that you played other than football?
Man, truth be told, I was a star basketball player.
Okay.
But but
Okay.
but yeah, we don't get a whole lot of basketball scholarships coming out of Merritt Island. But basketball was my first one.
Okay.
So I played basketball, football, and I should have ran track. I was hard headed.
Okay.
So I played basketball, football. Like I said, started playing varsity and both basketball and football in my 10th grade. So I used to actually go up and play and practice with the team when Will Purdue. I don't know if you may not know Will Purdue, but he's a legend in our hometown.
Will Purdue, he played for Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, he the one that they said Michael Jordan punched in the face or whatever. But anyway, Will Purdue is from my hometown.
I think it was Steve Kerr.
No, I think he punched Will Purdue too. But
Right.
hey, that's the story in Merritt Island.
Okay.
So I don't know.
All right.
Maybe he did, maybe he did. But will produce a legend in my hometown. I used to go up and practice against those guys when I was in ninth grade, 8th and ninth grade. I was a pretty good basketball player, but again, we didn't get basketball scholarships in Brevard County. We were a football program, and so once I realized that was my ticket, that's what I really put my focus on.
Okay, before, other than going, like, obviously you went to Miami, were there any other football programs that was, like, coming at you to go to other schools other than Miami?
Shot, I was the man. So there was a whole bunch of football programs coming after me.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, no, I'm just teasing. But no, I was pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie. I ain't gonna toot my own horn, but hey, I ain't gonna let that slip by me either. University of Florida, South Carolina, Auburn. I took a trip to Auburn. I had a bunch of schools that were recruiting me, but I minimized the amount of schools that I was going to pay attention to, or that I was going to give a lot of response back to, kind of early. So I always knew I wanted to go to Miami. I think a lot of people knew that. I committed to Florida because at one point I fell in love with Larry Kirksey. Larry Kirksey was the running backs coach at the University of Florida, a long time football coach. As a matter of fact, Larry was actually one of the coaches on the staff at the University of Alabama when we played the University of Alabama in the Sugar Bowl in 1992. The year I was coaching as an undergraduate assistant at Miami. But he was a great guy. I fell in love with him. I mean, he come to my basketball games. He did everything right. But Don Solinger was recruiting me at the University of Miami. My brother, Bubba McDowell, was there, along with another Merritt Island great, Eric Ham. They were both there at Miami at the time. And when I took those trips to Miami, man, it was different. It was different. And so, committed to Florida because of my love for Larry. Two of my teammates, Jerry Odom, Cal Dixon, we were all coming out the same year. They all committed to Florida. Jerry's dad had a lot to do with him going to the University of Florida. Cal fell in love with it. We were all slated to go there together. And then, man, I went down there and watched the Hurricanes play. I'm like, wait a minute, I got to come back to my school. So, because I was a part of Miami from when the time Bubba started going down to school in 1984. His dad would come pick me up every Saturday. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget, on Friday nights, he would ride by my mom's house and stop by and go in and ask her, hey, is Hurley going to come to the game with me? I didn't have a driver's license, but Saturday morning, he'd come and pick me up. I'd drive to Miami. Me and him would go down and watch Bubba play. Then I'd drive back. And, and so I was very familiar with what was going on down there at Miami since 1983, 84. So that was my school of choice.
Okay, what was it like meeting Jimmy Johnson for the first time?
I guess you could say it was the equivalent to somebody who was actually, you thought he could walk on water. I mean, really, he was very stern. He was almost like a god. He was just a great person. You knew that there was no nonsense. You knew he had a vision. He didn't play a whole lot of games. It was amazing. And, for me, it was different because I had been seeing him. I'm in the locker room every now and then, going down there, hanging out with Bubba and the fellows and stuff like that. I never got a chance to meet him until I was actually being recruited by him. And I'll be honest with you, man, he was just one of those guys that you felt, hey, look, this is one of the guys that I want to play for. This is a guy that I think that can teach me more than just football. And he did.
Okay.
He actually saved my life, though.
Okay. All right. We'll go over. Okay. 1988. That was your first year, correct?
Yep.
The first year. Okay. 1988. Obviously, the first game you played. No, I don't know if you played in this game, but in '88 it was against Florida State. Now, tell me about the story about Jimmy Johnson putting in the videotape about the Seminole rap.
Oh, you know about that? I
Yeah.
thought that was a secret. I thought only true Miami people knew about that one, huh?
Yeah, because I watched the the youth documentary.
The 30 for 30. Yeah, I got it. All right, yeah, okay. They just spilled all the beans. They tell everything on the doggone 30 for 30. Shout out to them. But anyway, so it was my first year actually getting a chance to play. And I have a very unique story, but you ain't got enough time on your show for me to get into all that. But my story was that, I got there in '88. I got a chance to play as a true freshman. One of the only true, it was Daryl Spencer and myself. We got a chance to travel with the travel squad as true freshmen. So anyway, we get ready to play Florida State, and we always had that Thursday night meeting, team meeting, where we go in and pick the captains, we get our ticket list done and stuff like that. So we're sitting in there, we're waiting on coach, and all of a sudden, the ticket guy shows up, and he's got a friend of his from Florida State, but we're not paying attention to it. We just know that our ticket guy hands out our list. He goes through and makes sure everybody's filling out their list for tickets for families and stuff like that. So we're all going through this and we're writing it down. All of a sudden, Jimmy walks in. Now, mind you, back then, when a head coach walked into a meeting, no matter what you were doing, no matter where you were, you all of a sudden get stood at attention. You sat down, you stopped talking. When he walked in, and this was Jimmy's deal, when he walked in, everybody was at attention. I don't care who you were, Michael Irvin, Benny Blake, it didn't matter. Melvin Bratton, Lonzo Hoffman, stars of the team. Everybody gave him the due respect that he deserved. And they shut up and they listened. So this particular night, I'm going through the ticket the whole night. All right, bam. All of a sudden, Jimmy opens the door, he walks in, everybody gets quiet. Jimmy sees this guy with the Florida State shirt on from across the room. And we ain't really paying attention to it. But hey, man, it's a big game. We're trying to get tickets and stuff done. So all of a sudden, he makes a beeline to this guy. And he snatches the ticket, the sheets of paper out of our ticket guy's hand. And he tells him to get out. And he says, if I ever catch this guy up here again, you will never work in the city of mine as long as I'm here. So now we're already at attention. But now he's got everybody's attention. I'm talking about everybody's like, wow, what's going on? So he tries to put the video in our big club meeting room, and it doesn't work. So he said, you know what? Forget this. Let's go. So the entire travel squad, which was probably about 60 kids, 60 players, went into his office. Mind you, back then, they had the big flow model screen, TV, big old wooden TV on the ground or whatever. And we all piled up in his office. He put the video in, turned the lights off. Everybody's quiet. Nobody's saying nothing. I'm a true freshman, so I don't know what's going on. I'm like, wow, man, this is intense. The video comes on. Now, mind you, what they didn't talk about, I don't believe, his two sons were part of directing the video. Jimmy's sons helped orchestrate that video. So you see him at the very beginning of the video, because they went to Florida State, from what I'm saying. But anyway, man, we're sitting there, and we're looking at this video, Deion Sanders rapping, everybody just singing, rapping, doing their thing, and you could feel the tension in that room. Now, mind you, this is my first time being a part of this, so I don't know what's going on. This is my first ever Thursday night meeting, getting ready for a football game. And man, the tension was just, you could cut it with a knife. All of a sudden, the TV goes, it blacks off, video stops, and everything's just dark. And Jimmy sat there for about 35, 40 seconds, just like that. Nobody said a word. You couldn't see nothing. All you could do is you could feel that tension. When he turned the light back on, I don't think I have to say anything else. And he got up and walked out. Oh my God. Dude, man, they almost tore up that office. I'm talking about, boy, them dudes were hot. Had we played Florida State that night, we'd have beat them 60-0. They were lucky that we had that night and Friday, all day Friday and Friday night, calm down a little bit. Then we played them that Saturday night. Tension was still high, but not as high as it was Thursday night. Unbelievable game. It was my first taste of true Miami Hurricane football, and it was unbelievable. And it set the stage for my next 4 years playing at the University of Miami.
Yeah, I won that game 31-0. Sammy Smith was held to like 6 yards. on 10 carries, so I shut him down. And, you know, Stephen Gary scored a touchdown. Yeah, I dominated that game 31 to nothing. Actually, Florida State, I think, was preseason #1 going into that
Yeah.
game. Yeah. So,
Florida State was ranked preseason #1. That was supposed to be the first team to ever start #1 and end #1. And we destroyed it. We completely destroyed it. You know, it's very similar to what happened the other night with Clemson and Ohio State. When Clemson was able to go in, Ohio State was able to go in and take all those clips that Dabo Swinney and all these guys were saying about their team and put that stuff up on the bulletin board. And they probably showed the video in today's time. And Ohio State went out there with a purpose. And that's what we did. That's what we did back in 1988.
Yeah.
So it's just a rendition of what happened, over 30 years ago.
Yeah. Florida State was preseason #1. That was preseason #8.
Yeah. Because we knew you hated us. We wanted to take it away from dynasties in college football. So why change it? So again, we all lobbied, but the powers to be had their.
Unfortunately losing that second time that year to Notre Dame, and
that's what happened. At the beginning of the game, I had just come off of an injury. So not only are we playing against the guy that called us everything in the book, but the child of God, we got a chance to win this game to go play for a national championship. And we had a pretty good understanding that we were going to win the national championship. We didn't think anybody else was on the schedule that could beat us after that. Penn State was a very tough game for us. Tony Sacca, O.J. McDuffie, Al Golden was a tight end. Mark D'Onofrio was a great linebacker at that particular time. They had a pretty darn good squad. Then you had, I want to say it was Richie McKenzie, who's from Fort Lauderdale. They called him the 8th wonder of the world at one time. He was up there on that particular squad. So it was a tough game. It was a great game. And Darrell Williams ended up intercepting the ball towards the end.
Yeah, the goal line.
To help seal the win. But that was one of the most gratifying victories I've ever had in my life, was to beat Joe Paterno in Penn State.
Yeah, big plays from Horace Copley. He had 80-yard touchdown catch, 80 yards from Gino Torretta, 91-yard punt return by Kevin Williams, and 42-yard touchdown catch from Lamar Thomas. So
it was a total team victory, man. Everybody played. Yeah. Everybody played hard in that game.
Now, got to get into the main event of that year was #1 versus #2. Florida State Seminoles, y'all won 17-16. Talk about leading up to that game. Florida State that year was preseason #1 going into that season. They were the team to deal with. Talk about that game. That was #2. Talk about that matchup, #1 versus #2. Why right? Talk about that game. Leading up to that game.
Well, it's Florida State, baby. You know, this is a difference maker now. This is those games when we played in that era always had national championships written all over. Whoever won that game was probably going to play for national championship. And it was, we wanted to win a national championship, and we knew in order for us to win that, we had to go through Florida State. We had to. So going into that game, it's a normal Florida State week, just like any other year. It's Florida State. When you a whole lot of film study, extra work in the weight room, longer practices. You may skip a class or two, but it was Florida State week. So your focus and the tension and the hype of the game is a little bit different with this week, especially now with my senior year. We didn't want to take the chance of not winning that championship. So everything, we just got turned up a notch. We practiced. We worked our butts off. And the underclassmen, that class that's right behind me, the Jesse Armsteads, the Mike Barrows, Darren Smiths, the Coleman Bells, the Darryl Spencers, Lamar Thomases, the Gino Torettas. Gino won the Heisman that year. They wanted to make sure that we went out the right way.
He won in '92.
Was it 92 or 91?
91.
Yeah, I was coaching. Yeah.
Desmond Howard.
Yeah. That's right. Desmond Howard won. That's right.
92.
Well, he should have won in 92, 91 too. But anyway, so, but we, we wanted to make sure that we went out as winners, and they wanted to make sure that, that our quest was achieved. So, I mean, we worked our butts off. Now, I'll tell you what, if you go back and look at that game, Steve McGuire had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, yes, he did.
Steve McGuire had a phenomenal game. I mean, he was taking it to Marvin Jones, and we wanted Marvin. We wanted Marvin at Miami. Bad. Marvin went to Miami Northwestern, and we thought we had a shot at Marvin. But Marvin saw those other guys because he was a year behind those guys, and he felt that he wasn't going to play. And then his brother played a bit at Florida State, so he went to Florida State. So we took that personal. We always had a little grudge against him. But Steve McGuire brought it to him in that game. He took it to him. Him, Kirk Carruthers, all those guys. They had Edgar Bennett. They had the Fab Four, Terry Anthony, Lawrence Dawson. And Lawrence Dawson had just took us to town the year before that. Lawrence Dawson broke the NCAA reception record on us down there in the Orange Bowl with 13 receptions the year before that. So we had to come back, and redeem ourselves against Florida State. But I tell you what, Coleman Bell made a catch on a third and long situation, I believe it was. That allowed us to go ahead and continue to drive and score and win that football game.
Yeah, it's 21 yards.
I'm telling you, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And it was a very acrobatic catch. It wasn't easy. It was a hell of a catch.
Yeah.
But it just showed you the commitment that our guys had to winning that football game. And there was a play on there, and arguably one of the greatest plays I've ever made in my life, down on the goal line, which held them to we had a great goal line stance, but I ran through William Floyd, bar none. They made a candy bar after William Floyd, but anyway, ran through William Floyd, tackled Ant Lee for a 7-yard loss on the goal line, and it held them to a field goal, and that's, we won the game 17-16. Had they scored, I don't know if we would have won the game. And mind you, they kept trying to say that I gave up the play to allow him to get down on the goal line in the first place. But that was Ryan McNeil. Go back and look at the play, Ryan. Yeah. You know you're supposed to have to cover that dude out there because it was quarter coverage. You didn't see Anthony run to the sideline. So you messed up that play, Ryan. But that's cool. I got you back. That's how we Hurricanes do.
Yeah. Steve McGuire had 22 carries, 142 yards. Yeah, he definitely had a big game. And the thing about your teams back then, y'all knew how to win the fourth quarter. Y'all was trailing 16-7. And Jerry Thomas, it's that field goal. And the thing is that another thing that stands out in that game was Horace Copeland caught a 9-yard pass on 4th down and 6. That was a huge play. That was the play of the game.
On Terrell Buckley. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Terrell, we down there inside in the low red zone area, and Buck is backed off. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. All he had to do was, turn around and catch the ball for 6 yards. I mean, wow. And we got the first down.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that, it was something that they learned from it. But Horace was that type of threat now. Because Horace was a dude, bro. Horace was 6'4", 210 pounds, and he was just one solid muscle and ran a legit low 4.4, high 4.3. He was a freakish athlete. So you had to respect him that way. Because if you come up and play him on the line of scrimmage, there's a good chance he's going to beat you for a touchdown over the top. So he backed off of him thinking, hey, look, I'm going to squat on it. And, he just, he misread it, I guess. I don't know what it was. But either way, that allowed us to go ahead and win the game.
All right, Larry Jones, the fullback, scored a touchdown, the freshman, for 1 yard. And then on the last drive of the game, defensively, I had the pass interference call on Ryan McNeil. Kind of face guard, he covered him well. I think Terrell, that was the receiver. Then he face guarded and got a penalty flag. So they deep in your territory. So obviously the kick. Where were you during that time when Jerry Thomas missed the kick from 34 yards and went wide to the right? Where were you on? Was you on the sideline? Was you on the defense where you had to block it, the kick? Talk about that.
I was actually on the field, and I was inside of Darrell Williams. I was on the tackle at the time, and going in, the ball was snapped or whatever, we all ran, and nobody knew what was going on until because I'm on the field, so I'm like, I didn't get a chance to see it until everybody starts, screaming, yelling. You see, how our sideline was reacting, so we knew we had missed it. It was a chip shot. I mean, it was one of those things where we felt if we didn't block it, that he was going to make it, and for him to miss that. But again, it comes down to pressure. I mean, you're talking the University of Miami, Florida State, 1-2. This game, whoever wins this game will probably win the national championship. And you're talking 65, 70,000 people in the stands. That's a lot of pressure. We were used to that pressure. Carlos Huerta would have made that field goal. We were used to that pressure because we're used to our coaches putting that type of pressure on us. So having to please that 65,000 was nothing like having to please Jimmy Johnson. So it is what it is. He missed it. We won a national championship. But again, we put that type of pressure on guys like that. That mystique of being a Miami Hurricane, winning all those national championships, playing in that particular game in Florida State at Doak Campbell Stadium, on a Saturday afternoon. That's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't wish that on nobody. But I'm glad he was the guy that got it because we ended up winning it. But it's I'm 51 years old, and I can see us sit here and talk about stuff like that. That's a blessing, just to be a part of it.